Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Dreaming Revolution. I'm Deborah Epstein and I am sitting here with my friend Joyce Vanderlily from Down Under. And she's in winter and we're in summer, and we're just kind of laughing a little bit about how we're polar opposites in the weather. Although it just started pouring here. So
Oh, did it?
yeah, so we're getting some good rain, which is really nice here in Arizona for us to be able to get some rain. But anyway, I just really want to say thank you for showing up for the summit and to be speaking with me and letting your light be seen by our audience. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you shine your light in the world.
Well, first and foremost, I'm an artist. I don't know. I find it always difficult to put names, and titles. But so I call myself an art alchemist because I like to play and weave things together. And I'm a creative intelligence guide. It's always geared towards the same thing. Like there's a core that stays the same, and every now and then I try to find the right words in the title to describe myself. I think it is really difficult, but a lot of the audience and you will realize that when you're a multi-passionate creative, we can call ourselves anything, right? We're little chameleons, and we adjust and we blend and we try our hands in this thing maybe today a little bit more and another thing next week. So it's also because I'm very curious, and so I like when I see things, I like to dive deeper in and understand things. I've always had that as a child as well. And I think most kids actually still have, most kids are very curious by nature. And as we grow up, we sort of lose that, or society and our environments discourage us to be so curious. So I think I've never lost it.
Which
I
is
just always
awesome.
kept it. I've always kept it. So yeah. I think it is an exciting thing to do and to have your curiosity. So never lose that.
Yeah, I love how you're weaving in the curiosity, yes, but the multi-passionate. I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody about having a lot of different skills and gifts, and how do I bring them together and market myself and, or be authentic in places where it's not traditional, to bring in that magic, to bring in that shaman, to bring in that healer, the medicine woman, because they really are working in a more traditional, I don't want to call it traditional, more mainstream school system, right?
Yeah.
And which to me, like if you're in a school system, like that needs your magical touch, right? And so her hang up a little bit was in that. And I started, as you were speaking, I was starting to wonder how many people that might be listening to this right now have that as an issue, a thing that stops them from really stepping into their full self as a creator in their life. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that many creatives will have experienced that growing up. As I said, we are often told or guided into a direction where everything is more structured and more to the norm, to the what is perceived as being normal and okay and acceptable and all that. So being very curious and being willing to try out weird things or things that haven't been done before is not always encouraged, because it is a lot safer to do the thing that has been done many times before, and then the results and the things that come out of that are more or less known. So it's not going to be a surprise. It's funny, like a lot of people are actually a little bit hesitant with surprises because you don't know, how many people, when they book a holiday, for instance, book the same hotel at the same place in the same resort year after year after year. And hey, if that is their thing, that is totally fine. I always love to go on adventures, go to new places where I had never been. so that I would experience something that I was totally going to be a surprise. And I love that. I love that excitement. Not everybody does, though. And why is that? If you look closely and try to understand why people take steps that they do or make choices that they do, it is often related to one of the three things. Like their fears. You know, the opposite, the flip side is usually regarding a fear of not really knowing if you have a roof over your head, not really knowing if you're going to have food, and not really knowing if you're going to have support, community around you, belonging, you know. So if you do something that is, you know for sure what kind of room you're going to stay in, what kind of house or what kind of building, so you know where you can sleep at night safely, you know. So if you book the same hotel over, I'm just referring back to the holiday, but if you book the same hotel over and over and over again, you know exactly what you're gonna get. So that is that is easy. It's easy, right? Oh, I booked this. I know where I'm gonna stay. Boom. I know where I'm gonna eat because the hotel provides meals, or there, you know. Or the restaurants in that area, you know what kind of food, you know that you like it, so that's okay, that's safe. So you're not gonna go someplace where, oh gosh, what if I order this and I don't even know what it is? Am I gonna like it? Am I gonna go hungry or whatever, you know? Or I'm going into the bush and maybe there's no food there, you know, like things like that. But then also like the community, the belonging. Of course, they're like I'm looking for the right words. Like they're your basic needs. It's like shelter, food, and community around you, support around you. That's for your personal safety.
Yeah.
Your human safety in a way.
Yeah, like your survival. Yeah.
Yeah.
The survival system. Yeah.
So curiosity steps you out of that. You know, you take a step outside. It's like you're no longer walking that middle path. You're actually on the fringes. You're prepared to walk in the rough bits on the side of the road. You're prepared to take a little detour and enjoy it. You know, have fun doing it. And I think that, so if you can be curious and open-minded to then your magic comes out, because you're in your inner wisdom, because you have a lot of knowledge inside of you that we don't tap into, will come up with solutions and with how to adapt to a situation and how to solve a little challenge or a little problem on the way, you know. That will automatically come. And you find that if you talk to people that have been thrown into a very unexpected experience, that they will afterwards, they'll go like, you know, I survived this, I managed through this, I don't know how, but I came out all right. And then, you know, if once you realize that happens, then you can say like, okay, so I've done it before, I can do it again, you know. It's just that hesitance to take that first time, unless you are thrown into it by force,
which happens, right? Like, can do that,
you know, like
sometimes.
by force. Like,
yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, but it is like that, right? Oftentimes we need to. I mean, I know that if life is just bubbling away like that, I can become pretty lazy. I can become like, oh yeah, everything is fine, you know. And then if something major happens, then I am shaken and hey, Joyce, come on, it's time to do something about this to get you through this difficult time. And that's also like most of the times they say after the deepest darks, the best solutions, the best light is shown. And so, yeah, so that is, I think people need to realize that, that they have that inner That is the magic. That is the magic. And don't be afraid to shine it, because when you do shine it, there will be others sitting there in, in the shadows going like, oh, life is, difficult. And then when they see you shine that light, then it's like, oh my gosh, it's possible. Look, she's doing it, or he's doing it, or they are doing it. So maybe I can also take that first step. Maybe I can also just try. Because really, nobody's watching you. Everybody's watching themselves. Really.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you're that self-conscious, you can bet there's everyone else like worrying about what other
Most
people are
people,
thinking.
yeah. Have you ever seen that there's a study about, those Zoom meetings where there's all the people with their little squares? They've done studies and noticed that people are mostly checking out how they look on their little square. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's
Hey,
probably
it's
true. We love
interesting.
to look at ourselves in the mirror, right?
Well, it's like, am I looking okay?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to avoid doing that, because I think, the more you become aware of certain habits, the more you can practice a different approach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the work of Byron Katie, and so after I've done, that's been years and years ago, I read her book and I started doing the practices and all that. So after that, I have become very, very aware of my language, the words that I chose. And so I'm constantly trying to use positive words in my sentences to avoid my mind to start going down the negative spiral.
Yeah.
I used to be very, very grumpy, and I used to be a very grumpy and negative person in one
So,
lifetime.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because not that we want to hear about how grumpy you were, but you had a moment where you decided to shift that.
Yes.
And that's what the whole point of the summit is that revolution, that we have this place where we either rebel, I've had enough of this, I'm sick of myself, I can't get out of my own way, and I'm done creating my life this way. But a lot of times we're not even saying like, I'm done creating my life this way, because we're still kind of in the victim place, because we haven't realized our power as creators yet. So can you share a little bit about how that revolution happened for you, if you can?
Yes. Well, I have to go back. I have to go back quite a bit. So growing up, I was a grumpy child, a grumpy teenager. I think it was more my teenage years. I was a very grumpy teenager and very rebellious, always very rebellious. I have very supportive parents. I love my parents. And also they are very traditional. So I'm the oldest, and me being a creative was difficult, because I was a daydreamer. They wanted me to go study at university. I had good brains, So it was a waste to waste all that on something flimsy and creative. Right. So that was the kind of the it's nice to be creative and all that as a hobby, but please study something like law or whatever and get a nice and proper job and earn your money that way. And I did not want to do that. And I got more and more rebellious against that. So anything that especially my dad would say, I would go straight against it. And so that meant that I became grumpier and grumpier and grumpier. And to the point that I actually did not like that. I mean, I really realized how dark I was, and then at the same time, they were still supportive, they were still supportive of me, but wanted to guide me into this life, life that that you're expected to walk. So in the end, I sort of did something like half, and like there is a period of a couple of years that weren't that wonderful. I have to say they weren't that wonderful. I left home, tried to make it work by myself, and of course then I didn't have enough money, and then it was like, I told you so, it's like all
those
that.
things.
And
yeah.
they were that's the book that I've closed, and I've read that book, and I don't really reread that often. I mean, they're the things that stay memories. They stay memories, but they don't have to they don't have to be it doesn't have to be opened up all the time.
Right.
There's no need for that. There's no need for that. I chose to move forward. At some point, I chose to move forward because I realized that the person that was in my way was not my dad, were not my parents, were not my teachers, were not the other well-meaning friends and relatives and acquaintances that all said, but oh, Joyce, go, maybe you can do this, maybe you can. They were all trying to solve my situation, right? It was all like, maybe if you go and study this, that will make you happy. Maybe if you go, and the more somebody else was trying to fix it for me, the more I withdrew and went like, they don't understand, nobody understands me, poor me. Then that whole thing comes, right? Nobody understands me. They're all different. I'm too different, poor me. Why am I here on earth? That whole, because I'm also a deep thinker, so it just was a downward spiral. It was just a downward spiral. And at one point, I just realized, I think it came in a dream or something. I usually get these dreams where, like vivid dreams, where I suddenly get something like, hey, wake up. Try to see it from a different side, from another perspective, a flip side. Or there's a little voice inside that suddenly gives me a very wise direction, wise tip. So I thought like, okay, so if I am the one that is in my way, then I can try and, just make myself happy. Just make myself happy and start there. And so it is as easy to say something positive as it is to say something negative.
Yes, so true. Yeah.
And if you start to practice that, then if you just start to practice that, and I just recently heard something, and I think I'm practicing this now. Yeah. So she said, I heard her on a podcast and I forgot her name, but she talks about neuroplasticity, about how you can stretch your brain and train your brain and all that. I mean, it's not that I didn't know that, but I mean, this is like, there's scientific proof now. They can measure the brain.
Yeah.
So she suggested, like, when you wake up in the morning and you know that you're awake, but you haven't opened your eyes yet. So in that moment, in that fleeting moment, if you can think about a couple of really, really good things that you can be thankful for, like you can just lie in your bed and you can say, ooh, my bed feels so nice and warm. I'm so cozy in my little cocoon, that's a very positive thought. And so if you can think as, try and think as many positive thoughts before you open your eyes. At some point you open your eyes. But that sets your day off in a very, like they say, like, oh, do your gratitude journal in the morning and all that. That's after you've woken up, you've risen, But this is like, you're still in bed, you're still horizontal or on your side, and you wake up, but you haven't really opened your eyes yet. It's also that moment where you can still remember dreams that sometimes fly away, that time. And so if you can think positive thoughts, then that really, really helps you. And so I'm just trying to practice more and more and more of those kind of things. And I've been doing it for years now, but I add to it. I just want to say, like, I even, after all these years that I've been doing this work, whenever I hear something that I'm not doing yet, I'm trying to incorporate that into my life. I add on. It's another layer. It's another layer of positivity. It's another layer of making my life happy every day. because that's the most important thing, is just to make yourself happy. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you make yourself happy, then you can make others help. I don't want to say make other people happy, because you cannot. It always comes from that person. And also, like, if I'm a happy person, then I spread a certain vibration that
Yes.
will catch on, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like that bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important to share. And there's so much in what you just shared. So I just wanted to reflect back a little bit. What landed for me
Yeah.
in that is that rebellion part is what helped you maintain yourself as an artist. That's just kind of how I'm seeing it. And yeah, whatever you were going through that you had to maintain that, you chose yourself. You decided that I'm done doing it this way, and happiness is it. And then I had asked you, like, before we started, like, anything that can come up that you could add in as a practice. And I'm like, it just organically came up. Because the practice could be for someone that's listening that doesn't know how to shift this. It's before you wake up, when you're awake, before your eyes open, that's it's like so brilliant. Right. And then this other piece that you're adding in now is how we matter, how we be in the world matters. That, right, we can't change anybody else, but we can shift the energy within ourselves that creates that ripple that shifts everything around you. And how much we do matter. And I think when we're in those places of inadequacy or not enoughness or whatever the story is, that we're in that depressed state, that we don't matter, and what I hear you sharing is, yes, you do matter. And that, you're so worth it.
Does this mean that I feel that every day, like that I never struggle? No, right. I still struggle. I do have days that I go like, do I really matter? Like something will happen, or I don't know, a client may cancel their call or their appointment or their session with me. And if I don't know the reason why, then the first thing I go like, what have I done wrong? But it's always like, I always go like, ooh, what's wrong on my side, and usually it's silly, because I have to, it's better to stay neutral, because usually the reason is very normal, like they have a sick child, or they have, or they have to take their mom to the doctor, or whatever, something that is very easily explainable, and it's nothing to do with me, it's nothing to do with them, it's just a situation. And still my default is to find the fault in myself.
Right.
And that I am not adequate, or I have done something wrong, or I've said something wrong, or they may have seen something that they didn't like, or, like it's always that. And so that is a continuous practice that I am still, that's why I'm adding more and more layers of positive thinking, working on myself. Like I think we're always a work in progress. We never stop. The moment you think that you're done, it's done. It's done. It's done. And also, luckily, I like adventures. So luckily, I like challenges. Luckily, I enjoy the process of finding out things and working through things. I mean, having your creativity is such a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
It sounds like a superpower. Your curiosity is your superpower. Could you
it's
say
magic.
that?
It's magic.
Yeah, it's your magic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's magic. So if other people, like you said before, like people that are in normal jobs, and how do they incorporate their magic? Just look at what do you admire in other people? It's usually not the same old that every, what is it, 13 in a dozen or something? What do you say? Like, or yeah, I don't know. I think it's a Dutch saying. Never mind. Yeah, like
I'm
we say,
like 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
yeah, something like that. Like, it's the same as everybody does. That's not what interests you in somebody. What interests you in somebody is what sets them apart,
Mm-hmm,
So if you
mm-hmm.
think about that, if it is what sets them apart that interests you or that draws your attention to something, even it's not even always people, it's also things,
Yeah.
you're drawn to something because it is slightly different than the other thing. And that
Mm-hmm.
is with people, and that is with things, and that is with experiences, and that's with everything. So if you feel that, then you can also expect that that is for most other people the same thing. So if you have something special, magical inside of you, that is what people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That is what people want to see. That's what they want to experience. That's what that maybe they want to just look at it and go, ha ha, but at
Yeah.
least it is a point of connection and interaction and active energy,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise, if it is just the same, it's like gray.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gray, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that homogenized
Mm.
society that where the artist adds the color, right?
Yeah.
It takes it
Yeah.
out of the black and white, and we add the spice, we add the color,
Yeah.
and with our creativity. And when I think about, as we're talking, moving into this, the uniqueness of each voice,
Mm.
harmonizing with one another as a unity, it's if we all sounded the same, how boring would that sound be? Right? It actually might become a little irritating if we were all
Yeah.
sounding the
Yeah.
same, right?
Well, like even listening to music. Why is music interesting? Because there is a melody, because there is a play between loud noises and soft noises and high and low tones and all that. So it's a rhythm. You're looking for a harmonious kind of rhythmical play. It's like a
Mm,
play. It's like, that is
yeah.
what makes music one that you want to feel like you want to dance and that you want to, and it's the same with art. It's the colors and the mixing and the playing with the contrast that makes it interesting. So why do we stop at ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need to be this? Why?
Yeah.
You
Why?
know?
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
is it just so that you don't stand out, so that nobody will notice you? Well, then that's what happens, right? Nobody will notice you. So you
Yeah.
want to stand out in your, you want to be, if you're a teacher at a school, for instance, you want to be a teacher that the kids or the students love to have in front of the class. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this teacher really inspires me. We all know, we've been to school. We all know how it is to have a very bland teacher, da, 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 or an inspiring teacher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your magic inspires others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I hear a question coming and it's like, oh, it's something coming from the field. Probably that person that's watching this that has that persistent, but what about this? Or I can't because I can't let my authentic voice shine, or I can't allow my magic to come through. You
Yeah.
don't understand. You don't understand, Joyce, What do you say to that
Okay.
person?
Let me say this. If you are serious about changing your life, you'll find a way.
Mm.
And if you're not, you'll find an excuse.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So, so it's like if you come up with excuses, and I've done it myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we're all guilty of this. Like
Absolutely.
you think you want something, and then it's like, it's so easy if you can find an excuse, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to go for a daily walk. Oh, today it's raining. Today it's
Dang.
raining. Dang, I cannot go, Oh, this and this and this person is coming to read the meter. Now I cannot go. Oh, bad luck.
Yeah.
But you're actually trying to just fish for an excuse, so that it makes it okay, so that you can tell somebody else, well, I really wanted to do this, but yeah, this came up. And they will go, oh yeah, I understand. That's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course. You know, if you're really serious about changing, whatever it is in your life, whether it is something that you want to learn, like a course you want to do, whether it's something like you to do with your physical activity, if it is creating something, whatever it is, you will find a way to include that into your life. Because you will say, okay, I'm going to do this rather than watch this show on television, or I'm going to do this rather than, you can find a way, you can manage. I know we all have a limited amount of hours in a day. And I don't say like you don't sleep at all and create more time like that. But it is like you can be more economical with your time. If you start, here I am. I'm totally not so much of a scheduler in like, some people are very, very organized in their days. And also I do have certain things scheduled, simply because I want to include certain things in my day to day. And so, and if you attach it to certain things, it becomes like a new habit. So if you bring something new into your daily or weekly routine, attach it to something else so that you're not going to forget. Because I find that's something that I always struggled with. Like I would set an intention, and because it was a new thing, I sometimes would forget it because I have a lot of things going on. And then it would, for instance, it would be nighttime going to bed. And then I go like, oh, I forgot to put that. I wanted to do that and I forgot it. Or I didn't, I didn't write it down. So it was only in my mind. And because my mind is so full, then I just would have forgotten it. So then you go to bed and it's like, oh, I have to do it tomorrow. And then so some things come up again and it just doesn't happen. And then you get angry with yourself. And then once you start to be angry with yourself, you're going down a downward spiral. And that's the energy that you want to try and avoid. So to help yourself, it is easier to schedule,
Yeah.
I've learned that to help myself, to avoid getting angry at myself. So to help myself, I schedule things in, even though I've always been sort of adverse to calendars and schedules.
Yeah.
To make that okay in my personal feeling, emotions, life, I see it as an aid to being more compassionate to myself.
Yeah. And we could all use a lot more self-compassion. And I love that too. It's another tip for people to utilize, a tool for people to utilize is that, like either declaring or setting the attention what you're going to do today, but taking the next step and putting it in the schedule, writing it down somewhere, it's such a useful tool. And then if you're still avoiding it, it might be a deeper question, right? And
then you can go and ask yourself, so why am I avoiding this? And without being judgmental or without getting angry again, or disappointed. Disappointment is such a horrible emotion. I find disappointment is probably even worse than anger.
Oh yeah.
Disappointment is really, that's such a So to avoid that, but without being judgmental, without feeling that disappointment for yourself, like, oh, I've done it again. See, I'm useless. I can't do this. It's not that. There usually is something that you can find that explains that out. And if you find that difficult by yourself, there are always people that you can bounce those thoughts off with. I truly believe in mentors and guides and all that, because
absolutely. I was just going to say,
yeah. Especially if you get stuck in those kind of situations where you think you have a dream or a goal or something that you want to achieve, and it just doesn't seem to work. It just doesn't seem to happen. And, you start to question yourself. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with
Exactly.
maybe I'm
Yeah.
not good enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I need this. Maybe, and then you fill in all those blanks with things that are really not relevant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's the same pattern that, and I just had this hit. It's like the same pattern we do when, a client cancels or something doesn't
Yeah.
go our way. We go into the same
Yeah.
storied pattern of like,
Yeah.
it has to have something to do with me. I'm not
Yeah.
enough of
Yeah.
something. I don't know something. If I only knew how. So it's like, that's what's really interesting about what you're sharing to me is that sometimes you need someone like a mentor or a guide that can see that, that's been there, that knows that you're creating something you haven't ever created in your life.
Yeah.
And just because you haven't ever created it doesn't mean you can't do it. You
Yeah.
just need a little support to move you through those patterns that we have established so well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're ingrained in us, right? They're stamped in. Like we know how to do that. We know how
Yeah.
to tell ourselves, talk ourselves down, and we have plenty of proof of others that do that as well. So it's usually your parents have done it. So
Yeah.
everybody seems to, and then yeah, that's the one thing that I really find. I hope that changes in the generations. I hope that
Mm-hmm.
changes
Yeah.
in a healthy way. Like it's okay to push through things, and it's okay to be expecting good things and try your best and all that. And also, we need to be gentle when
Mm-hmm.
we are struggling through something.
Yeah.
Um, there needs to be also there needs to be a sort of uh, harmony.
Yeah.
I rather have harmony than balance, because balance is like even, it's stagnant, it's like not moving, right? So a harmony is where the scales are moving, so the energy is still moving, and sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
can tip a little bit here, sometimes you can tip a little bit there, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But if people that say like, oh, it needs to be imbalance basically means still,
Yeah.
and it's not
Static.
moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So a guide, a mentor, a support person will look at your things, your experience from a slightly removed, from a little distance. So there's a different viewpoint, there's different eyes. It's not just that they have different eyes to look at your situation. It is just that they are not emotionally so connected with what you are experiencing that they can have then a different viewpoint and a more rational tip perhaps for you.
Yeah. I was you were just kind of going into the next question I had for you around that, just because it just came up as you were
Because we're
talking.
vibing.
We're vibing. Yeah, it's like it's what you're saying is the reason why you don't want to use like your best friend or someone who knows you super well, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes your friends are kind of going to be like, oh, it's okay, you don't have to
Yeah.
push yourself so hard,
Yeah.
and or they'll tell you your story. But a
Yeah.
coach or a mentor is a lot
Yeah.
more neutral.
Yes. It's more neutral, and they also keep your intention on the horizon. It's like, okay, so you wanted to do this, remember, you wanted to do that, that's where you're going. Are you still going there? Yes. So then,
Yeah.
so then you get more concrete, more practical tips for your next step. And
Yeah.
I truly believe that. So they are the healers. They are really healing your
Yeah.
journey. They
Yeah.
are really healing your journey.
And I
The other
think
one, like
yeah.
if what you said, like a friend
Yeah.
will be there and patch up, put a band-aid over the festering wound and just leave it because it's you and they're too close to you.
Yeah.
And a mentor, a guide, or a coach will actually be the healer,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah. And
think
I
that
feel
is important.
that's, yeah. And I feel that's where the creative coach kind of really like bringing in that curiosity that you bring in, gets curious about like certain things. And we also know that it's a non-linear approach, that it's not like, well, you're going to be here and this is where you start out and that's the horizon, and it's just going to be this beeline right to the horizon.
Oh, like 5 steps and you're there. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 steps and you're there. Yeah. Try this. Yeah. Like, yeah, the be careful of the methods.
Yeah. So because it's never like that, right? I mean, that's the, oh gosh, we don't even want to start there, but yeah, the 5-step kind of method, like, oh yeah, that just doesn't work for creatives. It's like, we are creative, so it might be a brushstroke here and a movement there, rather than 5 steps there. Yeah. So
yeah, to me it's like a journey that gets revealed, that you may see the destination or have an idea of what that horizon looks like, but there's so many magical things that happen along the way that you
know
can't
what I call
see.
it? I call them quests, because it's like a quest, right? It's because a quest, you don't know what's coming next, and there are exciting things on the way. There could be a riddle that you need to solve, or or a door that needs to be opened, but there's always something unexpected.
Yeah. And that's where I see that magical power of, your curiosity, because fear and curiosity can't live in the same space. Because if you're afraid of everything, you're not going to be curious. You're going to do the things that keep you safe. And if you can get yourself to be a little bit more curious, you're going to start peeking into things and seeing things that you never could have imagined,
So I've got a question for you then.
Yes.
Yes. So do you think that that everybody is curious by nature?
Oh, I don't
because
know.
there will be people that are watching that go like, well, I'm not really a curious person.
Yeah. I think as children we are, though, because we are born to like explore the world. And I think it does I think it gets shut down.
Adults. Because I encounter them that say like, oh, but I'm not really curious. I don't really. And I go, really?
Yeah. But that might be part of what needs to get healed too, right? Yeah. It's funny. It's like artists, I think, can be curious, quietly curious, and I think we do have I think I could say everyone has a curious nature, and it just gets shut down in us. That's the story I'm going to go with, because I feel like as infants and children, like that's part of what we're doing is exploring the world, and then our parents put the little boundaries around us.
So same. And same as when we started. I think when we started, I said the same thing, right? I think everybody's curious. It's just that society, our upbringing, our teachers, maybe there are people that we get in touch with. Like, I think it's more societal than anything else. It's like the norm. The norm is as an adult, better not be so curious, because it takes you off the trodden path.
And I think right now, in the times that we're living in, the energy really supports the inner revolution that we need to have with ourselves to step us into what we're here to create, what our soul is here to do, what our voice wants to say. It's not about being heard, I think, as much as what we need to express.
Being heard, I think it is about being heard by yourself.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think, a lot of people don't listen to themselves. It's not so much that you need to listen to everybody else. I think maybe it is even more so that stop listening to everybody else and listen to yourself.
I got chills on that one. That feels like it's going to be, powerful for people watching this, that, stop and listen to yourself. Yeah.
People don't stop and take time to listen. I think it is that life is so busy and life is so quick and everything is instant that people forget to take a moment and just tune in. I mean, I'm always doing that. I'm doing that in most of my containers. Like, the work that I do is usually like, okay, let's just sit and let's connect with our inner wisdom, our inner voice, our inner the creative intelligence that comes from within, but you need to connect with it. You need to give it time. It is a relationship. It is a relationship like you have with anybody else, with a friend or a loved one, or, you need to nurture that, and you need to give that time. You need to have a dialogue, so you can have a dialogue with your inner wisdom, with your inner creative intelligence, with your inner being. And then, you start to understand yourself so much more that things, you start to understand, and why you respond to certain things in certain ways.
Yeah.
And I think that is the beginning of how you can begin to help yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. The words that just popped into my mind was know thyself.
Yeah.
Know thyself.
Yeah.
And then to thine own self be true.
Yeah. Also that. Yeah. Because how often are we actually not being true to our inner self? We put on a mask for the outer world. We put on a show. We put on a scene. That's also like, it's sort of dictated by society. Talk about aging women. Like okay, so so it's like of course everybody wants to be youthful and all that, but there's a beauty in aging. There's a beauty in aging gracefully, and I really just love it, because I am connecting more and more and more with my inner wisdom. And maybe it is the aging process that gives you that permission, like, okay, so this is who I am. I'm not going to go down the road of all this, all this tip, nip and tuck stuff. I'm just going to, embrace who I am, and that's fine. And it gives a certain peace inside. Yeah. Yeah. The more I am in peace with myself, and the more I'm connecting and having that dialogue with my inner self, the easier life becomes. Yeah. Yeah. That's such beautiful. It's just a beautiful place to start wrapping up where we're, our interview for today. Thank you so much for all that you offered today. It was absolutely beautiful. And I know that there is a gift that you have that those of you who are watching will find right underneath this video. And I want you all to check out Joyce. She's amazing. She's magical. And I'm sure that gift is going to lead you into some really wonderful and transformative places. Well, it will open up the connection and the dialogue that you can have with your inner self. Definitely. Because that is where it all begins. Is that, what's the name of your gift? Is that it? It's a creative intelligence. Yes. Oh, creative intelligence. Of course, it's going to have an inner journey in it. Yes, there's a little journey there, a little quest. Yes. Awesome. Again, Joyce, thank you so much for joining us here on Cosmic Dreaming Revolution. And as I said, all of you, if you'd like to reach out to Joyce, all of her information is going to be listed below this video. And if you want to reach out to me, we have the the Conscious Creativity Circle on Facebook that you can join and chat about the summit and all the things that are coming up for you as you're receiving these wisdom transmissions from each of these beautiful women that are joining us in this summit. So thanks again, Joyce, for joining us. Thank you so much, Deborah. It's always a pleasure to share thoughts with you, and I love the work that you do. You know that. Absolutely, ditto here. I'm a big fan of you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I really hope that it gave you a few things to think about, and helps you on your way. Yeah. Okay, and we'll see you next time on the Cosmic Dreaming Revolution. Bye.